TheBradRules!
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for the NES has been quite the controversial title. It has been talked about as a bad and highly flawed game for quite some time. And this one was made by Konami, and it's a very innovative platformer. So, is it really that bad? Quite frankly, growing up, I never heard of this game. I was mostly familiar with the Turtles games that were in the arcades and the 16-bit titles, but I knew there were Turtles games on the regular Nintendo, which is what most of my friends and I referred to the NES by. Yes, quite frankly, no one called the NES the NES or called the Super Nintendo the SNES. Those names really did become more popular in the YouTube era. Well, speaking of YouTube, there was a certain man by the name of James Rolfe who certainly had an impact on the reputation of the first ever Ninja Turtles game. James, as his angry video game nerd persona, made one of his best episodes of all time where he ripped this game to shreds, and suddenly legions of his viewers decided that this game was bad, and looking back at old reviews, this game was pretty well received by the gaming media. And yeah, I know, I'm the first one to shit on clueless gaming journos. But back then, gaming journalism was certainly more reliable, less political, and definitely more sane. Fast forward to when this game got a new lease on life when it was released for the Wii Virtual Console, and the cluelessness was in full effect, as the gaming press bashed this game as if they were the AVGN. Something was definitely up, and it didn't take a rocket scientist to see that the journos let their quote-unquote journalistic ethics get contaminated with what they heard from the AVGN, failing to realize that the AVGN review was a fucking joke. No, literally. The video is fantastic and one of my all-time favorites, but the video was made to make people laugh, and was in no way meant to be a serious review. Yes, there is truth in jest, most certainly, but honestly, we can all nitpick and criticize our favorite games, and I should know, I do it all the time on this very channel. This game is good. Is it flawed? Yes, but calling it bad is just ridiculous, and damn, GameSpot giving this game a 2.7? I'd say that's a little harsh. TMNT happens to be a really creative, fun, and challenging game. And while I'll agree, some of the challenges can be unfair and sometimes seemingly impossible to overcome without taking damage, but it's part of its charm in a weird way. First-time players and those who are going in without any prior knowledge of what to expect will certainly be in for a shock, and a punishing shock at that. Levels like the Dam and the Technodrome will put you through your paces. Each turtle has their own life bar, and you only get 2 continues, 4 if you enter the Konami code. But dying is really easy. Each turtle has their own strengths and weaknesses when fighting enemies. Yes, Donatello has the best reach of any turtle, but it is a common misconception that all the others are worthless. Raphael can one-shot certain enemies, and Mikey gets double the attack strength once he loses half his health. Leonardo has good reach as well, but his strength is about on par with Mikey and Raph. Get the sub-weapons and things get easier. The game does have a steep learning curve, and if you take the time to learn its mechanics, it's actually pretty substantive. When this game is discussed, very few people talk about the scrolls, which enable you to shoot powerful energy blasts, which makes certain situations with enemies a lot easier to deal with. For example, I made quick work of Mechaturtle by using it. You can actually miss out on it if you don't take certain routes, and that's what's really cool about this game as well, the multiple routes and labyrinth-like design of the stages. It promotes a great deal of exploration. I really love the idea that you might miss out on some stuff due to there being optional locations you do not need to visit to progress. You can choose to enter certain buildings or not. Like at the airport, you can choose which manholes you want to enter and face different challenges. If one path is too tough, you can try another. Now with a game this tough, Wandering too much can certainly get you into trouble, and you really need to think about what you're doing. Is getting that pizza slice worth the risk? Will you have enough health if you skip out on it? You also need to know when to switch turtles, and who should get the health power up or sub-weapon, and who should not. There's a lot to consider, and it makes for a pretty involved experience. Now, one of the big points of contention with this game is the odd enemy selection. There's foot soldiers and mousers, but then there's a ton of other enemies that are just out of left field, like the chainsaw wielding enemy or the flame monster. There's also flying enemies and guys with boomerangs. I like to think of it being a mixture of things. These are all creatures from Dimension X, and the fact that this game doesn't really seem to be all about the 1987 cartoon, and the game may have already been in development before the show really started going, and they had to make do with what they had. The developers probably had to come up with a lot of their own stuff due to the TMNT cartoon pretty much wrapping up its 2 seasons by the time the game came out. So it's not like they could probably change things so quickly. The game was probably under tight time constraints as it was. I honestly don't mind it. There is a large variety of enemies and it keeps things interesting, that's for sure. The box art features the turtles wearing all red bandanas as they did in the 1984 comic book. In fact, the box art is a cropped version of one of the comic book covers, and Shredder even looks more like his comic book counterpart. But Bebop and Rocksteady are here, and the Technodrome is as well. But Krang is nowhere to be found. April O'Neil also looks like she does in the cartoon, and Splinter is a human who is mutated into a rat, just like in the cartoon. In fact, the plot of the game is similar to that of the 5th episode of the 1st season, where the turtles seek out a device from Shredder to return Splinter back to his human form. So I'm thinking the developers had notes on the 1st season or saw the 1st season and tried to put in as many last minute inclusions as they could, or they just wanted variety. I mean, I'd say there's way more of a 1987 cartoon feel than the comic book. All in all, it's just a very bizarre mishmash of characters. So let's talk more about the difficulty, and dear lord does the damn demand precision, and it's almost impossible to not take any damage on this stage. For those who are not in the know, the turtles are tasked with swimming underwater as they disarm a series of bombs that threaten to blow up the dam, and they must navigate some deadly obstacles to do it. Probably the most nefarious of them of all is the electrified seaweed. This section right here is the stuff of nightmares and one of the most unforgiving sections in a video game, where getting through here unscathed is just not possible. This level is infamous for its difficulty, and the spike comes out of nowhere and makes you beg for mercy. The airport will also give you a run for your money with its multiple rooms of challenges, including these fiery pits that result in instant death, and this is pretty unforgiving, especially considering some of these jumps to cross them are pretty tricky, and the rooms are crowded with enemies. Magnets will pull you into pits of spikes, and conveyor belts are here to make your traversal a living hell. But nothing compares to the Technodrome. Getting there is a challenge in itself. You'll have to navigate down numerous manholes in hopes of finding it because it's placed randomly. Word to the wise, don't even bother with the building here because it's a waste of time and these birds will kill you fast. When you're underground, you'll encounter some tough as hell enemies, including one that looks almost identical to the Pokemon Sandslash. Once you find the Technodrome, you'll actually have to fight against the exterior, which is a cinch if you have scrolls. Once you make it inside, you'll find a maze of corridors which are a nightmare to traverse so late in the game, as you'll face off against one of the toughest enemies in the game, the Rocket Men. and they're in large supply. Health is something that is a necessity here, especially when you make it to the final corridor. God help you if you don't have enough health. This corridor is filled with the rocket men and these flying enemies, and even if you have the pattern memorized, it's still a bitch. This room is the very definition of insanity, and I swear, just like the dam not taking any damage is most likely impossible. This is a true gauntlet, and getting through it without save states is a miracle. And yes, I would recommend that anyone playing this game in this day and age use them for your own sanity. And thanks to the Cowabunga collection, I'm not just talking about on an emulator. Save states are your friend. Think of them as the fifth turtle in this case. And no, not Venus. Getting to Shredder feels almost anticlimactic compared to the Corridor of Doom, or really any of the other bosses, because he has no special attacks to perform. If you have scroll power left over, you can destroy him in no time flat. I also have to talk about that glorious OST, and boy is it phenomenal. The main title theme is blood pumping goodness, and is very fitting, despite it not being the classic 1987 theme song we all know and love. And the boss music is menacing and catchy. It's just a great all-around soundtrack. So overall, TMNT for the NES is a hard-as-nails game, but it's got enough positives to put it over the top as a classic. It controls well, looks pretty good, and while there were quite a few frustrating moments to say the very least, and learning its mechanics and style of design may put you through the ringer, it's still worth your time in my honest view. With so many turtle games being beat-em-ups, the fact that this remains the one and only platforming game on the home consoles makes it feel special. There are the Game Boy games that brought this style back to a certain degree, but they're far more simplistic and tame and don't come close to offering up the same type of intricate design that this one does. So that just about does it, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Do you like TMNT on the NES? Do you think that it is a classic, or do you think that the game is too hard and that greatly hampers the quality? Let me know what some of your favorite memories from the game are, or have you never even played it? And if you haven't, has this video convinced you to give it a try? Let's discuss it down below, and please subscribe if you haven't already. Click the bells to get all notifications when I post all my new videos. I want to thank all my subscribers for your continued support. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time.